we'll get started. We got a nice number of people here. So yeah, firstly, very welcome to our first virtual event here. I'm Ben from Total Media. We're a Google certified partner on both the publishing and advertising technology, and we help clients connect and navigate through the digital media ecosystem. And what we're trying to do here from this event and subsequent other events is really build a community of publishers and professionals who are interested in digital media and technology, and build them a portal for insightful content and a forum for their questions. So yeah, we're really pleased to have three guests that you can see up here with me from various different sides of the publishing world. You should be able to get a good, nice conversation in terms of different perspectives, especially during this kind of weird and interesting time. So we've got, I'd like to introduce our guest. We've got Neama, who's the VP of Operations at investing.com, which is like #2 personal finance destination globally. We have Ziv, who's the CEO of Shine's content distribution platform, and Sherzod, who's the VP of Commercial Operations at Minute Media, a sports and entertainment brand. So say hello to everybody. Cool. So the format's going to be is I'll go through and interview our guests each in turn with questions from the team here at Total Media, and also the questions that you submitted in advance. And if we didn't get to your question, please feel free to reach out to myself or the team afterwards, and we'll try and get that answered either offline or in the next event maybe. Cool. So I'll bring up Neama, our first guest, and welcome officially Neama, the VP of Revenue Ops at Investing.
You're muting as we're starting. I like it.
So it's all good. So why don't we start with why don't you share with us your best isolation-related story?
Okay, so being a workaholic has its specific advantages when you have kids. So the quarantine has actually forced me to see my kids more, which is great. Actually like them, which is surprising. And so for this 2 months, I actually got to see my baby girl walk for the first time. So that was very exciting, like about 2 weeks ago at this point. So that was just fun to walk out of the bedroom, really where my office is, and to see her toddling around the living room.
That's cool. I mean, yeah, we saw the same thing. Our little toddler of 9 months just started crawling as well. So, which is awesome. And usually I would miss that, being at work, or just get the WhatsApp video either live or afterwards. So yeah, no, it's really nice to be there with them. So yeah, why don't we, how's kind of investing.com kind of changed since the start of the pandemic?
So, I mean, everybody is now at home. We closed pretty early on when everything started. So it's been about 2.5 months that everybody is being at home. I think it's kind of leveled the playing field, for the company. We had offices in Madrid, and offices in Shenzhen, and offices in Korea, and people all over the world, but the main office was here in Tel Aviv, and it was a nice kind of leveling up. Everybody ended up having to work from home and be available and more communicative, and those kind of advantages to water cooler strategies were really gone when you're having to work from the house. So from that perspective, things have changed, and for us as a site, it completely exploded the traffic we're experiencing. Mm-hmm. So they're just going crazy because the markets are so volatile right now, and everybody's coming to see their portfolio. And
has your infrastructure been in place? Obviously, that's more on the tech side, but was the infrastructure in place to cope with that, or were there any kind of ramifications of having such big traffic spikes in terms of your operations?
I mean, luckily we had just gone through, I think, a big upgrade last year. So we were pretty ready to handle that kind of volume. But of course, I think the DevOps team was working around the clock the last, month or so, 2 months or so, just, strengthening servers everywhere, making sure we can handle all the traffic coming in. Mm-hmm. The worst thing you can do is be down while the market is open.
No, absolutely. And what kind of things have you been doing as an investor to adapt to the business climate?
So, the traffic kind of changed things for us. It kind of forced us into a position of doing things faster than we wanted to potentially do them. So, as a company, we used to sell a lot of sponsorship kind of positions on a flat rate to clients where they weren't traffic dependent, and something we've wanted to change, for a very long time. And once the traffic started going like crazy, we realized that that was the right opportunity for us. Thankfully, it also, fell at the end of a quarter. So we were able to, kind of rework client deals very rapidly, and, capitalize on the increased traffic going in and, peg all those deals to a traffic delivery rather than a flat fee.
How receptive were clients to that change?
Definitely not happy. I think it's a situation where if you're getting a ton more traffic and all of a sudden someone says, not so much, no one's really going to be that thrilled about that. But, they understood it was like a partnership we've had for many years with a lot of our big clients. And, so, the odd discount here and there, and they still would get what they were after, which was high impact kind of branding positions, even if we had to adjust the deal to make it work for both them and us. But it was something we weren't willing to kind of give up.
Right, and you guys have always kind of delivered performance for your clients based on the audience that you have and the content message you have. So I'm still sure that they're happy with the relationships that you're bringing and the actual campaigns that you're running for them.
Exactly. I mean, if anything, they're asking for more traffic right now, which is always the great position you want to be in.
That's a great kind of position to be in, especially in this kind of situation where a lot of advertising is suffering and people are pulling campaigns. So that's really good to hear. So in terms of like solutions and innovations that you've tried to do for the business during this time, both from work from home and also the ad operations side, what do you think has paid the most dividends?
So I think really just like moving fast and changing the sales model across the board took a lot of work, not only in front of the clients, but also operationally. The entire ad ops team, for example, had to just upend the way we were setting things up, reporting on things. Our data team had to, run to change a few pieces of logic. It was really a team effort between a lot of departments, and showed us that like, if we can set the goal and then have that be the focus, if we can move fast, even if it causes a few mistakes here and there, that we're going to get that change going. And that's worked really well for us. So thankfully, everyone's been really on board with the kind of moving fast and capitalizing on the moment attitude for us. So that's been, I think, the most effective, just like the move fast, break things attitude that emerged with this climate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you also mentioned kind of when we talked before about working on stuff that you might not necessarily had the opportunity to work on before, right, and actually do some initiatives that there may have been friction for and that kind of stuff. Right. There's one thing come to mind apart from the change in the business model, which was kind of core and something that you were thinking of doing anyway.
Sure. I mean, for years, we've also wanted to, automate a lot of the operations behind the business and all the campaign setups and things. And, we never really had the full time to focus on it. But, when other things did well, so like our direct advertisers and the traffic, we had a little bit more resources in other places. So, the resources that were put in place developing the network traffic, or where we were heavily dependent on, eCPMs that went down, we redirected some of those resources into automating a lot of ad ops work. And that will really set the stage for, after Corona and for the next few years, that we're going to be able to streamline operations when things do scale back up there. So also just, redirecting things on the fly to do things you've always wanted to do, I think. The right time.
Also, kind of automation really helps when you've got disparate teams, because obviously 100%. Communication is much harder, or people are working in different time zones and such like that. So being able to automate what you're able to, generally the lather, rinse and repeat of the day, is you'll be able to kind of push it out there and actually focus on stuff that matters to the business.
100%.
Cool. And how do you think, in terms of the team and in terms of the kind of the motivation, you have kind of dealt with working remotely? Because I know most of your ad ops guys are sat with you usually and that kind of stuff, but now they're all working from home. Right.
So, I mean, it's definitely been an adjustment. And I think, the nature of the team was pretty like young people who like socializing is a big part of the job. Mm-hmm. So while we've been at home, that was definitely an adjustment for the first few weeks. We tried to bring in, more team meetings, more scheduled meetings, I would say, to kind of, bring everybody together on the same page. Here's what we're doing. Here's what the focus is this week. Here's where we're going. And really, try and marry that kind of strategy and socialization at the same time. So, at the same time we would talk about what's our Q2 goals, we would be talking about what our favorite Netflix shows at the moment are, kind of like what we were doing when we started this. Right. And I also really encourage the team to have those coffee breaks together on Slack or whatever offline platform they were using. And so that kind of helped, bring everything together.
That's good. And likewise, has anything kind of taken a hit? You mentioned kind of that strategic planning was slightly more prolonged and more difficult when you can't all get into a room and butt heads and discuss kind of decision making. Of
course. I mean, that went, I don't want to say out the window, but it was definitely a lot harder from home to, have the management strategize, because a lot of those strategies come later in the evening, when we all get time after our meetings finish to kind of, brainstorm or throw around ideas of where that's going. And that's been a lot harder from home, because we're also all spending more time with our teams and communicating with our teams. So where the team communication has been better, the strategy has kind of lost out a bit. But we're really trying our best, still stay connected and stay focused on what our goals are coming in.
Absolutely.
And also it's been strange, we're hiring. So we've, taken on, let's say, I think 2 new VPs since this whole pandemic has started. And it's been a strange kind of, you get to know, your new colleagues or partners in the organization that you really do need to build those kind of roadmaps and strategies with. So
absolutely. And how does this kind of onboarding look like in that kind of virtual kind of zone that you can't actually sit in and onboard and pass on knowledge and historical kind of legacy?
Very awkward, it's just, very honestly, it's one of those like body language, coffee, those things play a huge role in just getting to know someone, their, how they like to communicate, how to talk about certain things is difficult. So once in a while, especially now towards the end, we're going to the office a bit, making sure that we meet, in person here or there, just to, be able to put body language to face. I think it's crucial, honestly, unfortunately, for this kind of timing.
Right. So we have publishers here probably of various different scales and spectrums. If you could pass along one bit of advice in terms of navigating these challenging times, both economically and in terms of personal kind of health and that kind of stuff, what would it be?
I think, maybe 2 parts. I think diversifying is very important. Not having all your eggs 100% dependent on one type of advertiser or one type of revenue stream. We branched out a lot into premium services to our users also during this time, and that's really helped kind of strengthen the business going forward. Something that we invested heavily in the past, but this has only highlighted the fact that we are so advertiser dependent. So diversify and then automate. Really, what we're doing now and building the automation tools, that's what's going to help us scale as a publisher for years to come. So I think those are crucial. And just move fast, break things, do things you always wanted to do.
Fantastic. So that sounds great. In terms of put the pandemic and the economic situation aside, what do you see as the biggest challenges for publishers in this space right now?
I mean, I think, being so advertiser heavy, even after this pandemic is gone, I think it's going to be hard to bounce back. I don't see advertisers going to be rushing to spend, budgets, at least not the same way. They're going to need to adapt. And advertising is, traditionally a pretty slow moving industry to begin with. So I think it's diversify as much as possible, the revenue streams. So that's, I think, the biggest challenge, figuring out what the right way to diversify is.
Fantastic. I think that's a really great place to kind of leave this one, and we'll move on to the next guest. But thank you very much for joining us and your insight. And stick around and have a drink.
Will do. Now on to wine.
Fantastic. So now we've got up Ziv, who's the CEO of Shines, which is a content recommendation called distribution platform, should I say?
Content distribution platform.
Hey, how's it going?
This is the main thing.
Great stuff. So why don't you kick off with the same way that Neama did and share with us your best COVID story?
Well, I think it's also kids related, since it started, the lockdown. So I have a 3-year-old boy, and every second day we try to go to the beach to play frisbee. And first time police came and then kicked us back, and then it became a thing. So he said, I'm gonna talk to them this next time, and I'm gonna tell them this is not a park. And so it was fun. So every now and then police arrived, and he was really nervous in the beginning, but then he said it looks a bit like a game. Will we see the police? Are they coming? What do we do? And it was fun.
Fantastic. Sounds yeah. Nobody ever really told us that we'd need to spend this much time with our kids when we had them. So yeah.
Yeah,
so
and he loves frisbee. So now he's good in frisbee. So that's my very proud of him.
That's great. So just to introduce you to everybody else that's just joined, this is Ziv, the CEO from Shine's, a content distribution platform. So how has Shine's really changed since the start of working from home and the pandemic?
So to be honest, at the beginning we said like everyone can come to the office if they want. So we didn't have everybody. We're like 24. So 6 decided to come every day. So it was fun. And every Thursday we had like a Zoom time. Like every Thursday we have a lunch. Instead of this, we just catch up and see everybody. Numbers obviously, fill rate, CPMs crashed, like on all our sites, our partner sites. Positive things, lots of sign-ups a week, from people who want to distribute the platform. So at least 50 more sign-ups a week for people who have channels on Facebook, Instagram, and want to distribute content. And also a few publishers, like very big names that started to approach us. Listen, we know you can promote our content in paid traffic. I would love to test. So so it's kind of balanced thing.
That's good to hear. Were those people that you were already talking to, or how did that new business find you? What kind of channels did you use to kind of activate?
No, maybe one of them we had like a connection from the past, but the rest were like just heard about what we did with other publishers and wanted to try.
Cool. And in terms of obviously you've got new business and you've got additional publishers, and Phil's being a little bit terrible at the moment. What are you doing to adapt to the current climate?
So nothing changed actually, because we are very focused like to the penny. So obviously margin are more tighter. There's less room for mistakes, less room for less margin to scale in some platforms. So you go to other platforms there where CPCs also decreased. Obviously it's not the same session revenue you get like before, but still you have room. So I think we found some more places we can buy traffic, more influencers that we know that at the moment they have loads of followers, they can promote the content. And also we hired like two talents that just left competitors. So it was also lots of people laid off, and we will also find a way to bring more good people to join us. So it was like good to get some more expertise that we didn't have before.
No, absolutely. It's nice to know that you're able to capitalize on the opportunities as they come. In terms of, you mentioned that there's less room for mistakes. Did the team really step up to the challenges there?
Yeah, everyone knows it's like it's tougher environment, tougher situation. They see what happens in other companies. They see the colleagues, the friends. So yeah, everyone knows this is time to step up, and we have great team, and everyone's on top of things, and yeah, we're very happy with the work they've been doing also from home and now from the office.
No, that's great. And so is everyone back in the office now?
21 out of 24, I think. Like 3 people still. Everyone's different story, but yeah, 3 people hopefully will join us in the next couple of weeks.
Fantastic. What would you say is what have you learned most about the industry during this period?
There's 2 sides of things. There's the demand, obviously, advertiser, and the distribution platform. So advertisers obviously want still, unique content, great experience, great performance. It's nothing has changed. We do see more demand partners that more, just reaching out, which, if a few months ago it was hard to get them, now they try to get us. Listen, we want more inventory, more supply. So it's nice to see this. And also the platforms, it's some, I think a bit looser now, just bring more. Everyone see the numbers going and they want to bring the business back. So we also see them more open to test new stuff. They give you more attention. So I think also because people working from home now, we feel a bit close. Everyone with, pajamas at home and with kids behind. And, I think the relationships even got better. It's not like in conferences and you go to meeting, everyone's formal. It's like everyone's in the same boat and trying to help each other. So overall, I think it will bring all our partners, to better partnerships.
I think that's a good point. I mean, we're working in a global industry anyway, but often it was quite stuffy and segmented, and this has helped kind of level that playing field wherever you sit geographically, or whether you're in a big organization or a small organization, everybody's in the same situation. That definitely helps. In terms of, it's interesting that you said that the demand partners are reaching out and looking for more inventory, because there's massive inventory spikes that Neama kind of hit on in terms of traffic and in terms of this kind of stuff, but you still feel that they're hungry for more?
Yeah. Every time they send us email, Index Exchange, OpenX, all the guys there listen, will send us more site to approve, send us, more inventory, and they're getting more, I think, more attention now to clients before. That's my feeling. I don't know if it's, all across publishers, but we do see that they look for more revenues from every direction.
No, that's good. And how have you kind of evolved as an organization by working remotely and during this period?
Well, to be honest, I don't really like the remote environment. Prefer, we have a big open space in our office, and we prefer everyone to be in the same space, talk to each other, catching up. I think every other alternative is, there's more friction and getting the communication, not as effective and not as nice. Mm-hmm. Best to just have a conversation face to face. But that was the situation. So we had like this 2 months that we had to do it, and we did it, and everyone was very productive. And the Slack all the time worked, and Zoom and Hangouts, or WhatsApp, whatever. But very happy now that everyone in the office, I could just see everyone smiling. I think at the end of the 2 months, everyone was so willing to go back. And also on our Zoom meetings on Thursday, just said, listen, can we have another room so we have room for everyone? So I think it changed after, the beginning. It's nice, everyone's working from home, but then everyone needs, like, we're social people, so species. So yeah, everyone wants to, I think, to feel close to each other.
No, absolutely. To see somebody smile up front, it makes a difference. And whatever, you may not be hugging just yet, but when that comes, I'm sure there'll be a big group shines hug. I mean, you mentioned when we spoke earlier that you kind of, in terms of your business operation, you've moved from kind of combat mode to war mode in terms of how hungry you are for business and how hungry you are for your operations. You able to kind of expand on that a little bit?
Yeah. So as I said, like, this is like, everyone is like in a war mode, and there's like always been this, but I think now they see all the partners and everyone in the same boat, and they know they need to, everyone to fight for every piece of quality content, performance, they just try to shop the performance and, getting everything done, in the best way they could. And I think, we are in a numbers, environment. Everyone can measure everything. Maybe not the smile of our audience, but you can see it in the comment, and obviously everything else is, measurable in real time. So yeah, everyone tried to beat the record of, last, week or last month. And obviously in overall April 2020 is not April 2019, but we do see improvement, and with a new publisher coming in, I'm sure we're going to see this growth.
Yeah, I'm not going to ask you to look in a crystal ball or anything like that, but you slowly see that numbers are improving across all of your KPIs?
Yeah, it changes between the sites, but overall, yeah, we see higher fill rates and higher CPMs in the last a few weeks. And even obviously we are a bit different because it's not only organic, it's like even most of it is promoted either by influencers, by affiliates, or paid traffic on Facebook and Twitter and other platforms.
Mm-hmm.
So for us, it's like very just trying to find the room where we can explode in different languages, different markets. We don't do only US. We do lots of other geos now, and all the team is working together to find these spots.
Mm-hmm. And which so you mentioned you branched out into new geos. Which kind of geo has kind of surprised you most?
It's not surprising, but I think Mexico is now much better than it used to be. South America is also something that we always was good. Brazil, but we try to push more Spanish and Portuguese to these geos, and also in the US, Spanish is working great for us.
That's great. And if I can ask you, what kind of advice would you pass on to publishers to kind of get through this period and to move on?
I think it was the same as before, just try to focus on unique content or great user experience, right balance between, ads and content, and try promotion, don't try to break this organic ceiling, either yourself or, the help of others, but definitely try to also do paid campaigns and see how you can bring more audience to your pages.
Sounds good. And in terms of put COVID aside, put the pandemic aside, what do you think are the biggest challenges facing publishers today?
I think it's going to be the same as just before. Speaking about 2-click penalty from Google as advertisers. Speaking about cookieless that's coming in a year and a half. Speaking about good at balance and everything, just try to bring good user experience and keep the advertiser happy.
Cool, yeah. I think happy users brings happy advertisers at the end of the day, and good content always has been a good kind of strategy. But I think that's been really great and insightful. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll move on to our next guest.
Thanks.
Cheers. So if everything works right in the Zoom ecosystem, we're joined by Sherzod, who's the VP of Commercial Operations at Minute Media, which is a global sports and entertainment brand. Hey, Sherzod.
Hi, Ben. Hi, everyone. Manyanim.
Very good. For everybody that doesn't understand Hebrew on the call, that means what's interesting here, or what's going on. So it's good. Fortunately, we're kind of back in the office. I can see you're still at home. So for those that just joined, we're joined by Sherzod, who's the VP of Commercial Operations at Minute Media. Why don't you kick off by sharing, like the others, your best COVID story?
Hi, everyone, again. There are many stories, and I think everyone internally and externally, everybody knows my kids now by their first names and whatever they do throughout the day. Also, one story stands out is like I connected sort of to a large commercial meeting. Luckily, it was internal, and instead of switching off my microphone, I switched off my camera, but I left my microphone on. And I was trying to cancel my Vodafone contract. And for about 15 minutes, I spoke to, tried to multitask. Not that I wasn't interested in that call, but I was trying to get two things done at the same time. I suppose, so we can't multitask. So we should concentrate one thing at a time. And a lot of people now know my address, my mother's maiden name, and my date of birth, and a few other details that they wouldn't normally know. So, yeah.
At least there's now no excuse for nobody sending you a birthday card.
Correct, yes.
Fantastic. So how do you think Minute Media has really changed over this challenging period?
The business adapted in many ways to this new reality, right? So we started, like Neama said earlier, well before the countrywide lockdowns began. First, we started with sort of our US team working from home, and then followed by Israel, and then London, and then we've got lots of other sort of Brazil was the last one, but we've got Singapore and a few other offices, satellite offices in the US. So we, in that sense, that we were kind of doing what the kind of restrictions came in, and government start asking us to stay home if possible. But the media has a lot of complex operations, right? So there's a commercial operations, commercial sort of sales, which can work remotely from home, as you know, is not a problem, and as long as you're connected and you can speak to your clients and so on and so forth. But we also have a very large video operations, and we also have a athlete management teams. And even though I don't think we are meeting a lot of athletes these days, and the sort of lots of the brand contents that we creating for our partners. So those kind of teams then cannot work remotely, or sort of the equipments that they need cannot be sort of held by one person. So, you know, has to be shared by multiple people, multiple sort of team members. Or they cannot travel to Spain or go to sort of shoot a video for Yokohama, for example. So it's different parts of the business has a different challenges, and the business kind of tried to support each and every teams in the way that it's appropriate for that particular pressure sort of points that those teams have. Yeah, so it's you know.
Absolutely. So, I mean, it's interesting you say about the content stuff. What over this period, obviously, normally your content is very event focused, very game focused, and that kind of stuff. Now, with no games being played, no sports being produced live, what content have you felt has worked really well for the users and for the advertisers in terms of monetization?
Content, the content topics hasn't really changed, because you know that we've got very diverse owned and operated sites. We've got one side, Mental Floss and Fluoride, for sort of very strong entertainment base, and then we've got sports sites, and then we've got athlete-led platforms like Players Tribune. We've got football, the US sports, and initially when all these things kicked off, I think, you know, we've seen quite a surge in our traffic, and the contents was about COVID related, and everything is related about the pandemic, how the teams are doing, how the leagues are doing, how the what's expected, and you know what's going to happen with the Premier League, for example, and so on and so forth. That was very interesting for people to read, I suppose, in the beginning. And a few weeks later, that you cannot continue talking about the same gossip all the time, right? So you need to change a little bit. Yeah. So I think what we're seeing quite recently is the you know, the stories by the athletes or sports personalities, and how are they coping with things, and what is keeping them sort of going, and what kind of activities that they're doing. So that kind of things are more interesting to our readers now. And we also syndicate a lot of our content across multiple different platforms like Yahoo, MSN, and many Media Plus partnerships, and so it seems to be going well. So no complaints there.
And you mentioned when we talked before about kind of in terms of the monetization thing, that your relationships have pivoted in terms of your SSP and your yield partners in terms of how you deal with those. You're able to kind of expand on that a little bit?
Yes. So quite early on, we decided very actively that we'll do like 2 or 3 different things, very sort of distinct things. The first one is like, let's go to basics, right? So let's not try to fly a million miles an hour, and then let's concentrate on those small pieces of the puzzle, those small things that that matters and adds quite an important kind of revenue numbers in the bottom line of the business. So that's one thing that we start analyzing each and every partner, and we start analyzing each and every sort of site, ad structures and ad sort of layouts, so on and so forth. And then we start sort of optimizing those things. Then the next bit is kind of going through the bit of a auditing process, if you like. So we work with 17, 18 different SSPs, and because of the true sort of a global presence, Southeast Asia is very different, Latam is very different, and Europe and US, you got mature markets and you got sort of developing markets. So we start auditing all of those partnerships, and we started kind of talking to these guys on a more frequent basis, trying to understand what is changing in their landscape, and trying to stay current, or I don't want to say ahead of the curve, but it's trying to be related and adopting the changes that those guys are seeing. And if at the end of the day, those are the platforms where we monetize billions of impressions on both in display and video. So it's very important process that we went through.
Absolutely. I mean, you said about adapting to the kind of the changes that are happening with your advertising partners on the programmatic side. What can you say, if any, was the most dramatic change that you saw across one of the partners?
So without naming the partners, we've seen some partners retaining their sort of spenders, if you like, or the DSP spends or the brand spends at some level. Mm-hmm. There were some very interesting conversations that sitting with the SSP analytical teams, and they say, "Oh, don't worry about British Airways losing, not spending money, or Booking.com or whatever, but we've got Uber Eats spending a lot of money." Like, hold on a minute, Uber Eats will never outspend British Airways, right? Let's put them into perspective.
No.
But they're trying to sort of lift the spirit up and looking to where it's the spend is coming from, and how can we utilize those sort of optimizing towards those spending partners and give them what they need. So what we saw change, I suppose, going back to your question, is some partners lost probably 50 to 60% active brand spends from their platforms. That's it. That's a seismic change, right? That's huge. Some 20, 25%, right? So it's also about sort of the robustness of the infrastructure, those partners that we have and we chose to work with. Also, their sort of incentives for those buyers to keep spending through their platforms. And we're also trying to work together to kind of maintain that kind of support system for not only publishers. Then we're definitely not in the market asking for help all the time from those partners, even though I was amazed to see how flexible our partners were to help us and support us. But we're also trying to support them to say, right, okay, so what do we need to do to keep those, Vodafone or internet providers spend? And what can we do, and what kind of best practices that I suppose that we can do to help you to keep that spend coming through? So it's definitely two-way street that we've been doing and working with.
Absolutely, it sounds good. I think Vodafone keeping their budget might not be cancelling them on a Zoom call might be good. But in terms of you mentioned when we talked before about you were taking the opportunity to evaluate your monetization stack and really take a look both in terms of a performance perspective and a business operations perspective, those partners who really kind of you want to be working with long term and that might be bringing on additional business risks that you might want to cut out.
Right. Yes. So we always evaluate partners, right? Where the best of times, good times, and bad times, right? So we always look into sort of what's the better technology that we can utilize for our own operated sites, our own users, as well as our Mini Media Plus sort of partners. Have we lost some partners in last 8 weeks, 9 weeks? Yes, we have. Have we lost all of them due to like us not want to work with them, or naturally they're gone? Perhaps, yes. But some of them, yes, we decidedly stopped working with. And it's not to kind of in any shape or form in a negative way, but it's more like right, okay, so some partners work good with investment. I remember my agency sales days that I used to rep very small investment agencies in London versus very large advertising agencies has like BMWs and automotives and FMCG. But small financial agencies can sometimes overspend those other guys, given the seasonalities and things. Absolutely. So it's not because that we want to be negative, we don't want to work with these partners, but the spend on those partners or the strength of those partners are not necessarily suitable for us. So that's a very mutual way of like, let's work or let's not work together. So I definitely am keen less is more approach, and I am sticking to that, and I'm trying to make the business internally to agree with me every now and then. And
look, I won't ask you to name and shame which partners you got rid of, but percentage-wise, how many kind of demand sources did you how much leaner are you now today than you were before the beginning of the pandemic?
Oh, well, it's as I said, they've dropped off in various different reasons, right? So what we had and what we have now in terms of demand partners, I mean, it depends what the demand partner kind of means for me and means for what you mean with your question. It's not much. It's not much that we stopped working with. Maybe 10% at best. But also demand partner for us means that we also liquidate a lot of the cash from other similar businesses that they cannot get away or they cannot spend. And because of that sheer volume, sheer reach with our partners that I work very closely with, Ziv from Shinez and a few other partners that I can see their names here. So we can get a lot of the cash away or distribute those advertising budgets. So those are also our demand partners. You know what I mean? They're not just SSPs or networks in that sense. But not many in the way that we stopped working with that.
No, fair enough. So, I mean, to tie it back into, to put it in perspective for everybody joining, what do you think you could say would be a piece of advice you would pass on to publishers experiencing challenges that may not necessarily have the momentum that Minute Media has and the reach that Minute Media has?
I think, as I said earlier, so that go to basics, I think is the most important thing. So I certainly, and I'm sure that Minute Media has seen the fruits of like going back to basics and concentrating on those smaller projects and smaller things that we might have overlooked or might have like tried to chase something bigger. So that's definitely something that I would do, and I would advise if somebody is asking my advice. And definitely constantly audit your stack. Make sure that both the partner-wise, we got very large Minute Media Plus syndication business on the site. Constantly audit them, constantly look at the margins, constantly look at the optimizations, working with them and lending our resources and helping those guys is one of the things that we did at Minute Media to help those guys to kind of, how can I say it, lose less, I suppose, in COVID terms. But also, auditing your demand stack, as we spoke just before this question. So I would say like help others and go to basics, but also make sure that you know what kind of demand you're getting.
Fair enough. That really makes sense. And then in terms of put the pandemic aside, what do you think is the biggest ticket items that publishers need to kind of be aware of and will be challenging above and beyond when we get out of this?
I mean, I think we're not going to go back to the so-called old norm. So it's going to be very different. So we're going to go to this new norm, and I don't know what the new norm is going to be like. And like my guess is as good as your guess, I suppose. Well, no, yours is better. So because Israel is back to some sort of normality. So I think Ziv touched cookieless world is something that we need to be very aware of, and the Chrome changes that are coming with the sort of, especially if you are in a video space. And we are in a very, we recently on 13th of May, we launched our video platform called Voltax, as you are aware. So definitely the Chrome changes is something that we need to watch out as a sort of 5th of August is approaching fast. And I think, I don't want to mean it in any negative way, but I think this crisis also brings a lot of opportunities. Right, so it's the opportunities in a way that you know, we were in the market to acquire a lot of businesses last couple of years, and we acquired sort of mental floss from Dennis and the player shooting from Derek Jeter, you know, the big lead from Gannett, USA Today owners, and Fansided from Meredith, and we were very close, but we kind of didn't. You know, decided not to pursue another acquisition in Latam. So these kind of opportunities will be out there, and you know, I think as a sort of business, as a platform, as a sort of outward-looking sort of business in the publishing world, I think the challenges are, if you're interested in that kind of opportunities, that what is good for your business, how can you sort of acquire them or add them or then and blend them in, and both culturally and business-wise and monetization-wise and everything, and make it work. So as we know, buying is not everything. So making it work is and maintaining it is also a very big part.
Sure. No, that sounds, that's really great. And I think that's been very insightful, and we're pretty much kind of coming to the end, but thank you very much for your time and your insights. I think hopefully everybody's found that very interesting as I have.
Thanks, guys.
Cool. Cheers, Sherzod. So, real good. Okay, so basically, thank you very much once again for our guests. I think the common thread for that has really been focusing on basics and getting what you do right and doing what you do well. So for most publishers, that's really building engaging content, engaging platforms for users to come and enjoy. So I hope everybody else has found that very insightful. Thank you once again to our guests, Neama, Ziv, and Sherzod for joining us and talking to us today. Thank you for the team to helping put this together. And thank you for you guys for joining us. If you have suggestions for other topics that you'd like to hear from us or guests that you think would be great to kind of come and talk to us, that